Alright guys, today I wanted to basically go through what I think is my 2021 Premier League Team of the Year. I picked a 4-3-3 formation because, it's probably the most commonly used formation in the Premier League these days. Let's go through all the teams that use it. City use it, Liverpool use it, uh, Tottenham have used it at times. Uh, Crystal Palace use it. Brighton use pretty much every formation there is or has ever existed. Okay, not as many teams use it as I thought, but I'm still going to go with it. So in goal, I picked Edouard Mendy. He's just been phenomenal, especially for some reason since Thomas Tuchel's come in, which I don't see how that would make any difference to a goalkeeper. Probably just coincidence because he started off well for Chelsea, but then between, probably the last couple of months of Frank Lampard's tenure as manager, he struggled a bit, or at least he seemed to be struggling a little bit. I think he got dropped for a little while midway through last season, but since about January, for me, he's been the best goalkeeper in the league. Yeah, pretty, straightforward. I've also put some notable mentions in. I've put Emiliano Martinez. He's been brilliant for Aston Villa. He makes lots of saves. He's usually near the top in the Premier League saved chart. And also Alisson, because again he makes the occasional mistake. He's made a few this year. He made a big one on Sunday just gone, and he made a couple at the start of the year. In that Man City game at Anfield when Liverpool lost 4-1 to City, he was at least at fault for two of the goals. I think it's fair to say. So yeah, Mendy in goal. Right back, I've gone with Trent Alexander-Arnold because he's brilliant. He just is. He is the best right back in the world. I don't see the problem or why that causes such outrage. Or at least I think the only person I can think of who really pushes him for me is Rhys James at right back. Trent Alexander-Arnold is ridiculous. His crossing ability, passing ability, even shooting ability is just amazing. And he's a lot better defensively than people make him out to be. There's this myth that Trent can't defend, which is the most lazy opinion there's probably ever been in football. People just, need to watch football rather than read Twitter, if in all honesty, to see that Trent Alexander-Arnold can indeed defend. Watched the Newcastle game the other night. Alexander-Arnold made a crucial tackle on Ryan Fraser to stop him scoring and equalising when it was 2-1. Then he goes up the other end of the pitch, quick 1-2 with Firmino, and absolutely smashes one into the top left corner from about 25 to 30 yards. Notable mentions are Rhys James, as I've already said. He's brilliant right back, and has also had a very good year for Chelsea. The reason I put Trent just ahead of him is partly because I think Trent is slightly better and has had a slightly better year, but also James hasn't really been a right back either, so that probably knocks him up points a little bit unfairly because he plays right wing back for Chelsea. And I've also picked Kyle Walker because Kyle Walker, a lot of people never really give him that much credit because he's not the most exciting player. People, again, often say he's a speed merchant, which, his speed is a massive part of his game, but that's not all there is to his game. He's very good on the ball, very good passer of the ball, or he's definitely improved since joining Man City a few years ago. And he's very, very good defensively. Occasionally his positioning can be a bit off, but he knows that his pace can make up for that. And at centre-backs, I've gone with Ruben Diaz. Don't even need to explain that one. And For the second centre-back, I was torn between two Chelsea centre-backs. I was thinking either Antonio Rudiger or Thiago Silva. In the end, I went for Rudiger. And I think that might partly be because I think Rudiger's plays more games this year. Tell me if I'm wrong, obviously. But they've both been really good. But Rudiger's been very good. And I was struggling to come up with some honourable mentions for this because I don't think there's been that many outstanding centre-backs this year in the Premier League. But along with Rudiger and Silva and Diaz, I've also gone with Ezri Konsa and Angelo Bonner and also Ben White. But my two in the team are Ruben Diaz and Antonio Rudiger. Left back, I've gone with João Cancelo, who, I mean, he isn't even a left back. He's right back's his preferred position, but that's how good he's been for City this season. And even last season, he was still quite good. He's improving season upon season for City. His first season, he struggled to get minutes in the team because I don't think Guardiola really knew if he could play the left back role, which has always been Man City's weak point over the past few years. Pretty much since Kolarov and Gael Clichy have both left, and even then you could argue that was still a bit of a weak point for them. But yeah, since Guardiola's let him play left back, he's been brilliant. My other notable mentions for that are Luke Shaw, who had a very good start to the year, but over the past few months it's dipped off a little bit. And I've also gone with Andy Robertson because I do think he hasn't been quite as good as the past couple of years, maybe. I think that's fair to say. But I still think he's had a decent season, so I think he might be a bit of like a victim of his own high standards in that regard. And, so back for Alexander-Arnold, Diaz, Rudiger and Cancelo. In midfield, I've gone with Declan Rice as my sitting midfielder because he's been brilliant for West Ham and he's a massive part of the reason they got into Europe this season. And he's not even one of those holding midfielders that like sits in front of the defence and just switches play, takes the ball and puts it out to the wingers. He can also dribble forward with the ball, run with it, which is very impressive for a man of his size. Like, he is a big guy. He's got to be 6'2", 6'3" at least. So the dribbling ability he has is pretty impressive. For notable mentions for defensive midfielder, I've gone with Rodri because although he doesn't play every minute because, Guardiola likes to switch things up in his team, when he does play, he's outstanding. And also I've gone with Fabinho for Liverpool because he's been very good this season, and also last season he was one of Liverpool's best players in a very poor season in relativity for Liverpool. And I think when he did get injured during that 6-game run, and also when he did play, he was playing centre-back, it did show how much Liverpool missed him in defensive midfield. But yeah, when he's played in midfield this season, he's been phenomenal, and Liverpool really missed him yesterday against Tottenham. And then two central midfielders in front of Declan Rice are going to be Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandez. Bruno Fernandez gets a lot of criticism at the moment for not supplying the amount of goals or goal involvements that he did last season, which, I mean, obviously everyone knows that penalties were a big part of his game. And you know who was coming to Man United and sort of knocked him down the pecking order on penalties. But he's still been a good player this season. I still think Fernandez, he's still creating a lot of chances. And obviously last season he was one of the players of the season, so I don't feel I need to explain why he's in the team. Bernardo Silva, if it wasn't for the past maybe 3 months, he probably wouldn't get in this team. but he'd probably still be a contender. But the past 3 months, he's probably been the second best player in the league behind Mohamed Salah. So yeah, he gets in the team. His dribbling ability is one of the best in the league, if not probably the best in terms of wriggling out of situations. He's certainly like the best at that since Coutinho was in the Prem. Notable mentions for midfield go to Mason Mount, Emile Smith-Rowe, Ilkay Gundogan and Jorginho. And then we get on to the front three. On the right wing, I've gone with Mohamed Salah. Don't even need to explain that. And for the notable mentions, I've gone with Bukayo Saka and Jesse Lingard. I think Saka's been a very good player, but what he needs to improve on is the amount of goals and assists he does get, which he has done recently, to be fair to him. Maybe consistency is what he needs to work on in terms of the amount of actual goals and assists he is getting. Jesse Lingard, phenomenal start to the year. First 6 months of the year with West Ham were incredible. But since he's gone back to Man United, when he has played, he's looked very good. But for some reason, he hasn't played very much, which I think's a big fault of Solskjaer whilst he was at Man United. Striker, I've gone with Mikel Antonio. Again, very good year for him. He's got goals and his all-round play has been very good for West Ham. Even when he isn't scoring, he is a positive player for West Ham and is a big reason why they are in the Europa League this season. And two notable mentions, Diogo Jotter, who has had a very good start to life at Liverpool, considering that he was signed in 2020 to be like a backup to the front three. He's managed to break into it and earn a starting position more recently, and he's got a very good goal record, so he's a contender. And Jamie Vardy I've also gone with because he's sort of gone under the radar a bit this year, because not last season, but the one before, 1920, he had a very good season. I think he was top scorer that season. Last season, I still thought he was very good, even though he wasn't getting the same amount of goals. And this season, he's got more goals than I thought he did have. I think he's on 7 this season, which is, still quite a good return, especially for someone who is in their mid-30s now. So, yeah, he's definitely a worthy shout. And final position, Heung-Min Son, I've gone for on the left wing. Spurs have had a pretty poor year, to be honest, but he has been one of the few shining lights for them, I guess. He's been consistent for them throughout the year, one of their only consistent players, along with maybe Højbjerg. And I'm struggling to think of anybody else, to be honest. Lucas Moura has also been quite good for them as well, I guess. And other mentions in that position are Phil Foden for Man City. Again, he doesn't always play, but when he does, he's usually very good. And also Jared Bowen. So that's my team: Edouard Mendy, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ruben Diaz, Antonio Rudiger, João Cancelo, Declan Rice, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandez, Mohamed Salah, Mikel Antonio, Heung-Min Son. I'm just going to work out how many of each team that is. That's 2 Chelsea players, 2 Liverpool players, 3 Man City players, 2 West Ham players, 1 Man United and 1 Tottenham. So that's my team. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.